I think that 2025, I'm very focused on stablecoin liquidity, because I think that the on-chain economy, everything ultimately goes through stablecoins. It's micropayments done, machine micropayments is something that you can't do otherwise. Machines don't have credit cards. And even if they were to be able to, even if you could sort of wrap some APIs around that, I think the vision for blockchain from the very beginning, it's always been about financial systems and financial infrastructure. So the title of the Bitcoin white paper is Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System. It's all about markets, and it's all about financialization, the financialization of new assets, which is what drives, I think, the crypto cycles.
Thanks everyone for coming to our podcast today. We are very honored to have Lily Liu come into our podcast. And Lily is like a humble public servant to the whole blockchain society.
Now you're just making fun of me, Bill.
Like jokes aside, Lily is one of my most respected ecosystem builder in the space. And like over the last 2 years, there are tremendous progress in the whole blockchain ecosystem thanks to a lot of the push for Lily. And I think the landscape has changed a lot. And today we'll hear a lot of the insights from her.
Awesome. Well, it's good to be here, Bill. And Bill, we've had quite a number of mutual friends for quite a while. I remember, I think we first met over 10 years ago. Just happened to be in, I think somewhere in Palo Alto or Woodside. Yeah. People always kind of come back together and doing various things. And I only recently realized that the depth of work that you do in AI, and also bringing that to blockchain. So it's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, maybe we'll have Ben and David also have a quick intro of themselves.
Yeah, David, you can go first.
Yeah, also excited to have this conversation. My background is also kind of in AI and blockchain. I was actually building the marketplace at Lyft in ride sharing before entering the blockchain space, and actually like spearheading the team, like putting AI into the marketplace, like from pricing to matching, etc. Built like all the driver side of the marketplace there, and then left around 2021. And I joined the Ethereum Foundation as in the core research team. So I was working mostly on like MEV mechanism, like proposal builder separation, and like kind of the core infrastructure for like handling MEV there. And we also started doing some research around like using smart contract to coordinate blockchain. So that's how I met like Ben and Bill. Also met at Stanford. So kind of like a similar place. And yeah, so that's how we kind of blend our backgrounds and try to like build like an AI product with like some legit use case of the blockchain in the back end for like data payments. Yeah, so happy to chat more about this. Also like happy to learn more about Lily, your experience, like bootstrapping an entire ecosystem. I think that's kind of the next step for us.
Cool. All right, nice to meet you, Davide.
Yeah, a brief intro about myself. I think I actually met with Lily 2018 in SF. Like, that's first meet. And then like for Solana ecosystem, I think in 2023 in the multi-coin kind of like annual summit, like from there, I see this cycle, the Solana did a fantastic like home run, like led by Lily Liu, like which is fantastic and amazing. And also, luckily, like we are also building kind of in AI since last year. Kind of it's a personal AI blended with AI and crypto and all kinds of things. We can chat here today. Yeah, really honored to be here as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's really honored. Maybe a quick intro about me for people who don't know. I was a Stanford PhD 2014 and one of the early researchers who participated in Transformer discovery in 2016 in Google Brain, and have been like building AI ever since. And have been building Ping with David and Ben. And Lily is one of our investors for Ping AI, and we're really honored to have Lily here. So let's get started on the question. So the first question is, we all see Solana is getting great success and the super strong community growth, and is like a very large class of top projects in different sectors. But how, if you have to choose, right, what's your top 3 favorite sectors for the second half of 2024 or 25?
Yeah.
Upcoming half year.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think blockchain and DeFi are synonymous. I think blockchain has always been about DeFi. The entire thing is DeFi. I think the vision for blockchain from the very beginning, it's always been about financial systems and financial infrastructure. So the title of the Bitcoin white paper is Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System. It's always been about money. And the first thing that Bitcoin did was to actually become digital gold itself and the store value thesis. And that is what Bitcoin is doing. Everyone else after Bitcoin, I think, is seeking to be global financial infrastructure. That's been the vision from the very beginning. I think it's a very grand vision that everyone on the internet now has access to a so-called bank account through self-custodied wallets. And then you add on top of that smart contracts, which Ethereum introduced, really revolutionary what Ethereum introduced. And then from there, the discussion we've had for many years in crypto around programmable money, composable finance, that is very unique, very additive, and is the only way to unify, if we're successful, the liquidity of 5.5 billion people on the internet. And that's very powerful. We saw what the original internet, if you will, did with open access, liquidity of information to today 5.5 billion people, and how tremendously powerful that has been. And because you have open access, you're able to enable long tail content consumers and creators. And that has been very transformative, right? And I think that blockchain is doing something similar like that, but to money, finance, value, scarcity, and the ability to financialize a whole number of new things. And with that financialization, also create new markets around both human and non-human resources. So it's a coordination mechanism. It's fundamentally about financial markets, and it's fundamentally about unifying the liquidity of 5.5 billion people. So if I think about it from that perspective, the end goal has always been to get capital on chain and to bring assets on chain, and then to build unique ways of using those assets on chain that you can only do in crypto. I think that's always been the point. It's about being the best place for capital, the capital of 5.5 billion people. That means all the assets and all the ways to use those assets. Now, to get there, you have to do some things before you can actually have performant infrastructure, have developers building applications, before you can actually get to that point where you can bring assets on chain and actually have that be a productive experience for capital and for liquidity. And so I think a lot of the things that you've seen over the past number of years, there's kind of an order of operations here. First, you have to build a network, then you have to build a developer community, and then after you get to a critical mass on those things, then you can work on attracting assets. So I think there's an order of operations. The most important thing at any given point in time will change a little bit depending on what the marginal kind of growth contributions are. In 2025, to me, it's very simple. Be the best place for capital.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So basically, this is pretty much what David was working on in Ethereum, right? Maybe David, you have any question along this line?
Yeah, I think I agree with most of what Lily said. Maybe one small question is, isn't onboarding developers and onboarding assets intertwined in the sense that new developers build new apps, but those are also the ones that bring new assets on chain?
Yeah, absolutely. In the same way that in Lyft, having drivers and riders are intertwined. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so how do you kind of get this flywheel going is always the question. And the contours of that are different in crypto, but absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess, this also touches to what we are doing with PIN, right? Basically, we are using the blockchain for 3 key things. One is the user data ownership. So if you will, we are kind of bringing a new type of asset which is DWA, a digital world asset, right? So we are making private data that is useful for AI models, and then like IP as well. Like kind of we give it the ownership and the custody to the user. So that's one. And then the other one is payments, right? So we have this design where like we want to enable like these agentic services, we call them, to serve like people personal AI. That's the AI part we built. So I think again, like it resonates, right, around like that's what these blockchains are good for, and I think that's where in the world of AI is like bringing new assets and then like do payments at a speed that cannot be done, and at maybe like it's a micro scale that cannot be done otherwise.
Yeah, it's micropayments done. Machine micropayments is something that you can't do otherwise. Machines don't have credit cards. And even if they were to be able to, even if you could sort of wrap some APIs around that, it's just not, it's not digitally native forms of money. And so what crypto does is it takes data, makes it into money, and then takes money and makes it into data. And that is truly a digitally native economy.
Yeah, and maybe one more point is like actually, if you also look at where the like technosphere of like AI is going, is like there is all these MCP, which is kind of like even more microservices, right? Like you can think that agent-to-agent transaction are in the sense a scale, and maybe you can do that with Stripe, but it's already like becoming like a very high load. But then if you need to pay like getting some like tools on demand, that's like even 1 or 2 order of magnitude less, right? Like you cannot really do it with dollars.
You can't, and you can do. You can have an intermediary kind of like keep an account for you, but then if you're going to have every single transaction be independently settled, then you would have to pay a lot in interchange because there's like a base fee for interchange. So micropayments and microservices, or micropayments for microservices, is just practically impossible. Much less you could potentially do streaming payments in crypto. That becomes kind of interesting if you're trying to align payments with, for example, how much people are consuming content. You know, a lot of these ideas have been written about since 2012. You know, I think now that we have AI, we should just have AI just crawl like the entire history of YouTube, blog posts, Twitter posts for the last 15 years and just dig up. Here are all the things that people talked about as use cases for blockchain. I did this once. And
like back in the past cycles, there is 2 projects on Ethereum. One is called Sublier Finance, and the other one is called Superfluid. They were both doing streaming payments, right?
Yeah, streaming payments.
It's kind of like maybe a little bit ahead of their time.
Yeah, well, if I can make an observation about that, it's impossible to stream payments on Ethereum mainnet. It's like as impossible as it is to, for example, stream Netflix on a 56K modem. So I agree the thinking is ahead of its time, but the infrastructure just is not built for that.
I actually think the problem with Superfluid is that they need to wrap. So it's clunky, like because they need to wrap into a special kind of token, but then they were actually exploiting one specific configuration of like the Ethereum virtual machine where you don't actually need to like you initiate the stream and then the accounting just goes on over time without having to interact too much. Yeah, point well taken about like the speed. Yeah, that's something like that. It's kind of finally the ecosystem is rallying around. I think that's also thanks to like the competition from Solana and from other high throughput chain that like kind of keep that.
Well, competition makes everyone better. It's one of the root level incentive systems of humankind. So here we are. But I think that at some point it's very challenging to compete, right? Because Solana does not have 5-year plans. We have 5-day plans, and you ship and you iterate. And I think that in crypto, you've got asset use cases and infrastructure use cases. And I think those are, yes, they all use blockchain, and they have distributed ledger, all those types of things. They're fundamentally different. And I think that, in my opinion, when Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake, it went from this. It started off as being, okay, is this more about store of value or is this more about world computer? I remember, 2015 was the world computer. It was an incredible vision. But then once they went proof of work to proof of stake, then they automatically put themselves into the blockchain as infrastructure category. And then if you're blockchain for infrastructure, you're fundamentally about financial infrastructure. And I know that some people will debate that from time to time, but I think if you look at any of the use cases that have driven any market cycle, it's always been about financialization. Even during the NFT and gaming period, when people thought, oh, this is about consumer and creator and retail experiences, that might have been true, but it's fundamentally about, if you really get down to it, what was it? What was an NFT? It was financialized JPEGs, right? And then what was gaming? Even now, I think that the narrative around why blockchain gaming is important is very muddled. And if you really ask why, what people come back to is, well, it's because about the secondary market trading of in-game items. That's it, right? It's all about markets, and it's all about financialization, the financialization of new assets, which is what drives, I think, the crypto cycles. But then in between those crypto cycles, you want to bring existing assets on chain, because that's the whole point, right? You want to have all of the assets, all of the users, all of the ways to use those assets, and then the crazy things will happen. So that's been my conviction for a while, and I think that is kind of the generalizable and also empirically observed core purpose of blockchains. And I think that's probably going to be similar in AI as well. So what are the financialization angles of AI? What are the incentive systems that crypto can contribute to the AI boom? And I think there's substance there, but it's probably also overhyped.
Yeah, I think to Lily's point about the agent payment, right? I think Solana and the blockchain ledger is a natural payment network for all kinds of agents. Mm-hmm. But I think a similar kind of metaphor compared with when Bitcoin was born, when all those central bank is printing money and how to anti-inflation, how to build a kind of a new decentralized financial system. For AI, it's similar. So all the big tech already dominate the data for, more than 2 decades. And they are using those data with those super cluster to build those larger language model. Basically, every individual cannot participate. Yeah, I think so Pin AI was kind of setting on this foundation that your personal data could be your personal AI, and your personal AI could represent you to interact with the kind of hundreds and thousands of agents that is running on the blockchain rails and using the blockchain payments.
Yep. I think there's actual utility in that use case and something that uniquely blockchain can contribute. Yeah. So certainly agent payments. I think I remember back in 2014, 2015, there was some discussion around the many machine market, and machines would trade computer resource between them or create an autonomously managed marketplace for compute resource on one hand, and then you could also create an autonomously managed API marketplace, for example, as one type of, you could call an API sort of computer resource. So many of these things I think have been imagined. Yeah. And now with AI actually becoming mature, these things are possible. And even cooler than just trading, bandwidth and memory and very utilitarian resources.
Yeah, I think for the agent side, in order to build a kind of very vibrant agent-to-agent payment network, I think there is one important piece is who is going to represent you, we as a human. And so kind of the personal AI is actually a perfect digital representation of every one of us in the blockchain network that can interact with the agent, making the full pie kind of closed loop.
Yeah, so actually, we were building something for this. So maybe you can actually show a little bit of the screen so that you can see it. So what we are thinking this is there actually needs to be a routing process where, if you can see my screen, it's if you connect all your data and you have a data wallet, and now we kind of know what you like and what kind of person you are, what kind of shopping behavior you have, and what kind of on-chain trading behavior you have. We can basically create this recommendation of questions or tasks to you, so that if you look at today's AI, it's all in some sense answer machine, right? It's like a Perplexity, ChatGPT, deep research. It's all like doing things for you, or like answer some questions for you. But who is gonna ask the question, or who is gonna give the task? It's a question that for very educated productivity people, they are pretty good. They do vibe coding, they do vibe deep research to ask the questions. But for most of the rest of people, right, they can not really use AI to be very productive. They can only ask, hi, what's the weather today? They don't know how to ask an elaborate question. That's why prompt engineer is almost a job. And what we are doing is really like get a personal AI that knows about you and make all of that job go away, and be good at guess what you want to do in your daily life, like in your trading life, in your shopping life. And maybe can show you here a simple demo agent car where it's like we generate a bunch of different agents for different daily tasks, and you have a personal AI that is basically the coordinator to all the external agents in this agent-to-agent framework, where, like, for example, Perplexity is one of the external agents that is in charge of searching information for you. And then basically after Perplexity do some research, your AI is like the secretary that coordinate with a big external kind of labor group that work for you to dedicatedly serve you. And then like you can just ask other AI to serve you. That's kind of one of the demo we're building on each of the agent card, right? And then we do hyper personalization based on all your like past digital behavior on what have you like done over the last week to guess what kind of questions you might want to ask. That's kind of the things I want to show you to set up the stage.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So following up on this, one very interesting thing is we are currently building on the world where it's still an old world, right? It's an old world built by internet giants, where the whole market is set up as, to my point of view, more like ads or like an eyeball market, right? Google, Facebook, TikTok, all these big giants, they basically trade the human's eyeball as the most valuable assets, and they extract on advertisement, on e-commerce, on like gaming extraction, like Tencent. But the business model is still like quite different from the agent-to-agent payment, which is a much more like a natural when someone like provide you a service, either A pay B or B pay A, right? Like in the internet, is like A and B use everything for free, and C is paying for like sending some ads to A and B or something like this. Do you see with the whole like blockchain involvement, actually this agent-to-agent ecosystem can start to erode and reshape today's like digital marketing and today's internet giant business?
So digital marketing, that's an interesting one. Well, I think that blockchain can do that. I think there's a version where blockchain can do that with AI agents and without AI agents. I think the version of that where you do that without AI agents is where things like we were talking about streaming payments earlier, where with streaming payments, I as a consumer of content, I can pay directly rather than essentially what's happening with an ad network. It's a way of aggregating the liquidity of eyeballs and proxying that through CPC and other means of fungifying content, advertising content in front of all of the eyeballs on the internet, right? So in a way that also points to the power of global liquidity, just in the case of the regular internet, the global liquidity of attention and time and content and I would even argue that the reason that has created this explosive digital advertising marketplace is because there has not been native payments since you had to do it through advertising, right? And what you see in certain social media circumstances is, if you're on Instagram, for example, you're constantly being served engaging, shopping ads, depending on what you're looking at, what you're clicking through. There's really good stuff on there. So there already is a mechanism for direct engagement and then kind of cut of purchase through that direct to consumer sort of engagement model. That's what social media gave us. And with crypto, if you have native payments, and let's say you have really performance streaming payments one day, if I'm watching a YouTube video, then maybe I am just streaming payments to that YouTube creator. And so right now, instead of them getting paid on a 6-second watch video, watch length, and so if a view is six seconds or more. So the person who's watching the full 50-minute video should probably pay more than the person who's watching for 10 seconds. But that's very hard to do. So the most efficient way of therefore settling in that market or matching that market is to count every view, whether 6 minutes or 6 seconds or 6 minutes, as one view, and then putting that through a whole advertising network, right? So I think that already when you have long tail flexible sort of micro payment capabilities that are at the speed of the internet and at the sort of in our internet native, then you can already have different advertising monetization pathways. So I would like to see more of that happen anyways, and it's possible that AI agents can be a big part of making that even easier, cooler, and showing me better content, helping me filter through better content, which already does. That would be cool. But fundamentally, I think that there's a version of let's call it monetization, creator monetization, that is AI intermediated, and then also a version of that which is only crypto. It's like crypto intermediated and or crypto plus AI intermediated.
Yeah, that's a great question. What we are envisioning is also like, can we use the more agentic experience to recommend things as an alternative way to today, where power users go to like a Radium, GMGN to find the next meme coin to trade, and very intensely like actively searching. We just want to serve the people that do not have the kind of mental bandwidth to go through those.
Yeah, definitely. So certainly filtering through the content. To an extent, there is already sort of content targeting. AI just does that even better. As that's the difference between search and then Perplexity, right? That's why I don't know about you, but I've changed my default browser out to be Perplexity. Thanks, Google. It's been nice knowing you.
Yeah, actually, like this is also an interesting point, and like one of the reasons why I'm really excited about like these new AI use cases is because like historically, like even for like financial application in blockchains, it's been quite hard to disrupt like some use cases that are crystallized in like a sector that is there for many decades, right? Like the most success we've had maybe is like in creating these new types of financialized assets, which are kind of like, basically there is no competition there. There is no like incumbent like to this place. I feel that like AI is kind of a green field, right? In the sense like it's very hard to imagine that like now like advertisers on TikTok or like YouTube start integrating crypto payments. But like with this new emerging network, like actually I think Perplexity already does something like related to crypto. And I think there is also like this very interesting project, like a model router started by like the former CTO of OpenSea. They have like native crypto payments. So I feel that like the exciting part is that it's kind of new markets are being created, and like we can be there first, right? And
and it could also modulate the subscription model and have and open up more variable payment for certain types of engagement with AIs. There's always a preference for subscription revenue because it's stable, it's predictable, and there's something inherently valuable in predictability. Yes, but then on top of that, people who are power users versus people who are more casual users, there could be some more differentiation on that. That can be easily settled in real time using payments. So still a lot of things to come. I think that 2025. I'm very focused on stablecoin liquidity, because I think that the on-chain economy, everything ultimately goes through stablecoins. At the end of a speculative cycle, everything eventually trades back into stablecoins. And of course, payments primarily use stablecoins. And even if they don't directly use stablecoins, they ultimately get settled in fiat currency, which is closest to stablecoins. And if anything else, people just mentally denominate things in stablecoin, usually dollar terms, right? So stablecoins are really important. And I think that maybe the way this is going to evolve is 2025, where everyone now sees the product market fit of stablecoins and RWA. Everyone sees it now. Big capital pools are coming into this for about something like 250 billion. We should be 10x that. And once you have actual depth in stablecoins, then you have the liquidity to do like real use cases. I think there is real money being moved on chain right now, but it's not at the scale of what Fiserv does, right? It's not at the scale of what Visa does in their daily payments, flow. So that's what we should be supporting as decentralized infrastructure. And so part of that is, you got to build the platform, the tech, the tools, attract the developers, the apps. That's all been very apparent, especially in the more technically and product-oriented communities. But then you have to build liquidity, because if you don't have liquidity, then those apps can't move at scale, right? If you only have 10 billion stablecoins, you can't support anything in size, like true size, right? So that's a big priority, to build liquidity, and then that will, to your comment earlier, Davide, about like what comes first. Well, the liquidity attracts the apps, attracts the liquidity, and then that's how you build the network. So, yep.
Yeah. I guess one thing we were all very curious is I think on Solana there is a very interesting like community-based capitalism, right? Like the pump funds, the meme trading and all that. Like when you see it, all of a sudden you feel, oh, this is like nothing is of substance. But when you look at the human behavior, it's like young people are really into playing these games. And how do you see that part evolve to actually use those kind of energy and use like speculative nice money to actually do something useful?
Yeah. Well, I have a variety of different feelings, perspectives, and reflections on this, I would say. I think that if I go through the different sort of stakeholders in the community, certainly the network layers, meme coins have been very beneficial for testing infrastructure, right? The ability for the infrastructure at any time something massive can drop, and can the infrastructure handle it? And there's a big difference between what you can do on testnet, what you do when you don't have full demand for your block space, and how the network runs then versus when one of the largest financial events in the world drops on a Friday afternoon and the network just has to run, right? So those are very different production-ready infrastructure use cases. And so from that perspective, I think the whole meme coin thing has really battle tested just the Solana network as being able to handle real volume at scale. Yes, we also learned there were some integrations between DeFi, CeFi, certain parts of non-validator infrastructure that need to be performing in different ways in order to support all of that. But the core validator infrastructure went off without a hitch, which in my opinion was pretty impressive. So there's that part of it to point out in terms of meme coins. But I know that's typically not how people think about meme coins. People don't typically look at meme coins and they go, oh, wow, the network. But I will say that's a little bit how we think about it. So there's that. And then I think that but the more kind of social economic side of it, I think that a big part of crypto from the very beginning has been about using incentives to coordinate communities and for communities to be able to come together, hopefully create something of value, and collectively be rewarded for that, right? And I think that meme coins is a very nihilistic version of that because, yes, there's community organization, there's community facilitation, there's community coming together, but the core question is the community creating something of value other than 10-minute vibes? And I think that is the operative phrase, is creating something of value. So I think that maybe the better example of what crypto should be able to do is, why is it that with Uber, the people who got rich off of Uber and Lyft is the investors and the people who worked at the C Corp. And the people who helped build the network included the drivers. And so why is it that the first 100 drivers of Lyft and Uber, essentially, they got no shares, they got no upside, they got paid $19.99 an hour, right? And then had to go through the whole contractor, labor law situation in California, which became a whole national thing, Why is that? Isn't it kind of fair that the drivers would have been a very important part of the network? Can't have a network of drivers without drivers. So why isn't there a way to have a long tail of participants, network participants, be able to share in the upside? And I think that is maybe, to me, a preferred and hopefully eventual use case of how community-based capitalism should work in I think in a form that everyone probably agree with. So I think that usually there's always these little primitives that start off and make a lot of people very uncomfortable. I mean, we also know the range of content that was prevalent in the early days of the internet, and that was also a bit of a test case. So for me, I think I'm fairly patient with the specifics of any of these cycles, and I'm willing to look beyond that, into maybe even over intellectualize it sometimes, and try to push my thinking to, okay, well, what are the principles and the primitives? But I do think that some of the things that have happened recently with meme coins are fairly nihilistic. And that's the part that I don't like so much, because I think in the current cultural moment, we've sort of been trained as a generation to defer to Econ 101 a little bit too much, and even seed sort of just making human choices, seeding that to economics and saying, if it's economically possible, then it must be okay. And I don't think that's how you build a community, right? A community is about shared values. And if your shared values is, I can pay for it, I don't think that has a lot of good historical precedent.
Yeah, that's very, very insightful. Yeah. Actually, one thing we were thinking is this thing of AI fundamental, right? You have cash flow fundamental, and that's how stock market is building. But how can we actually get all the digital stuff that is useful for AI to be something that eventually all the speculative capital can be useful for something that is good for the world and good for human to push the future.
Yeah, that's something of real value. So financial value is not human values. And I think one of the things that we see in the AI world right now is, how even taking out of AI for a second today, there's always a cachet and some sort of premium based on handmade. And for a while, everything in the world was handmade, and then we got machines. And now you can get these incredibly perfect items that are made for 49 cents or something production cost, but yet you might pay 10 times as much for the hand knit sweater, right? The hand knit crocheted hat by the person next door or something. And why is that? It's less perfect. It takes longer. It's in many ways a worse product, but there's a value inherently to that authenticity, because we inherently, not all of the time, sometimes you just want the cheap, perfect, off the assembly line product, but we value some of those things just because there is something inherent about authenticity and things that are handmade, right? And I think that's going to be the same thing with an AI-driven kind of content world, where there's we already all know an image is AI generated and it's perfect, right? It's perfect, and it's of infinite supply, and so therefore its value is a little bit less than a perfect image would have been 5 years ago. So value is just ultimately about relative supply and demand. And so when the perfect thing is in excess, is in infinite supply, then the imperfect things actually in certain circumstances end up being more valuable. Interesting. I don't know how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, that's very cool. Actually, one last thing. I remember you were pushing for Saga phones, right? The Web3 phones for a period of time. And we were also in the early days of Ping, we also thought about this option where we create
I remember that
to be the kind of entry point, so that you have a personal AI and you own the whole OS. And then we realized, distribute hardware is so hard. We should just distribute software. Yeah. So how is your journey pushing for the whole Web3?
So Solana Labs, which is separate from Foundation, is building the Seeker phone. That's the Gen 2 phone. I believe that's going to be out this summer or something like that. So I think that So there's the Seeker phone, and that's built by Labs. And there's also another Web3 phone that we're very close friends with, the Jambo phone, and that one is the $99 phone for a totally different market segment. But I think you can't draw a line unless you have 2 points. So for us, to actually build an ecosystem around something, we always want to have multiple examples of that. That's true for pretty much everything in the ecosystem. And I think between those, they can probably cover appeal to global market. I think the Seekers can be around $499 price point. So appeals maybe a little bit differently in Africa, Latin America versus US or Europe, or even Asia. But I think it's clearly people primarily use the internet on their phones, and I probably do that 80% of the time. So you have to be where the user is, and if collectively as an industry we want to get to 1 billion users, well, part of that's got to be coming through mobile. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what Gen 2 is going to hold from the Seeker folks, and actually I don't know a lot more about it than that.
Yeah, maybe Ben, you can share a bit about your insight, right? You have been working on this from 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think I really like Lily's kind of metaphor about like the meme coin testing the network. And so I think it's also not only testing the network, but prepare for the AI agent, right? Like the AI agent will be the huge traffic in coming years, and 10x or 100x that can like live in blockchain and like interact on Solana. Yeah, I think that would be a great thing. And talking about I mean the phone angle, like I think the way like Pin AI sees like this, how like a human blockchain and AI data, how these things connecting together. I think like as we discussed, like all the content, all the data might be like 99% created by AI in the future, right? The only thing people can contribute, the average human being can contribute to the AI world, is the data they produce. Like, yeah, that represents the human consumption, human attention, eyeballs, everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like so we were thinking how to like kind of get back the data ownership and build their own personal AI. So when the entire kind of tech is entering like the silicon-based intelligence, like the human can also have their own representative interacting with the new ecosystem. And then like the way it comes back to like how people earn money, right? So like this water coin is like building on the foundation of like UBI, but like also like Elon was talking about the HBI, like the high basic income, right? Like so basically I think like the data and the human attention is able to generate like a high income for average human beings, and then be settled on this kind of like a broader agent-to-agent payment network. Yeah, so that's the future kind of we possibly see, and we also wanted to build together with like Lily with Solana.
Yeah, on the UBI point, I personally have never been excited about UBI. I know it's been a very heartstring tugging narrative, but I don't think that is how human societies thrive. I think people need purpose, and if you just say you find your purpose and here's your 10K a month or 5K a month, whatever the number is, I think that there's actually a pretty good track record for folks that are entitled to things, for things to break down pretty quickly. So I think within crypto, given the whole sort of community-based capitalism we were talking about earlier, I think the modification on that perspective I'd propose is UBO, universal basic opportunity. And I think that is going to be far healthier of an outcome than UBI. So I would say I'm like extremely bearish on UBI. I think that is like societal destruction, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree. Since I treat the whole like money system as more like the human society reward for a multi-agent RL system, right? If you just pay people like an empty reward, what we see is gonna be like San Francisco downtown, like kind of pretty obvious.
I mean, you guys live in California and I don't, so that's close to home for you.
I'm actually like thinking on my feet, like I kind of agree and disagree in the sense. So like my background, I'm American now, but I'm also Italian, like born and raised. So like two very different societies, right? Like, so like basically my American side resonates with like everything you've been saying, Lily, right? But then like you also have this example of Italy where like, okay, it's not even close to UBI, but you can think that in the spectrum is much closer, like this like welfare state and like high like social like net, like safety net. So you can think that it's much closer, like you can see is much closer to UBI, like in the spectrum versus the US. And there, like actually like the quality of life in like so many different aspects of like human life and even human flourishing is like quite high, right? Like if I look at like some lives, I think some of them are even more meaningful than people like in the US. It's not like as much centered on like work or financial exchange, is more around like relationships and art, etc. There is one downside, which like these societies don't grow, right? Like because you have less people that hustle. But if we can have the machine hustle, then like maybe we can have a social system where you get the best of both worlds, basically. So I don't know how to do it.
But then on the other hand, so okay, I live in Europe right now, and I was having this debate the other day with some as well. And my perspective on that is, I hear that argument all of the time in Europe. Look at the quality of life. Everyone's so fulfilled. But are they really? I think people just tell themselves that. And okay, so if we want to talk about European culture and creativity, I think Europe has an incredible history of creation, incredible contribution to human civilization. If you look at what Europe has produced and created pound for pound, it's incredible. And I think that Europe's historical cultural contributions way outweigh anything that the current generation has done or will do. So I actually think that the current generation is probably one of the least impressive generations in European history. And I think there's a lot of things to point that out. And yet the current generation constantly rationalizes, but we care about work life. I've heard it all before, right? And yet how great is that? How great is that standard of living when you look at crime, when you look at people are still stressed out about money, and there's limited upside. There's a decrepit social services in the southern half of Europe and increasingly the northern half. So I think that this narrative has been sold to this generation in Europe over the last 30 years, and I think it is empirically untrue and also unsustainable. Nice to meet you, Davide.
I thought we were gonna like really hard.
We're supposed to talk about AI. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have the AI agents argue it out, and they're gonna make much better points than you and or me. And then we'll go have a beer. That's a very humanly authentic thing to do.
Like I was mainly going from like personal observation, and that's why I also said like, of course, there is two faces to like the coin or the medal. But I mean, like some of those societal problems that you mentioned, like we do see them in the US, right? And actually,
absolutely,
here they reach even higher extremes, right?
Absolutely. And we are having a battle about that in the United States right now. The United States is anything but monolithic. It is two halves that do not overlap very much. And so I think that the same set of arguments is absolutely playing out within the United States, and they are the same set of arguments. So, and also, I understand that there's an American Pope now. So I wonder how you feel about that.
I actually saw the white smoke, but I didn't catch the name.
Yeah. No, it's the American. I was shocked that they chose the American.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah. So I don't know who he is, but I will check it out. I'm not very close to like that part of Italian society.
Yeah. I feel like fundamentally, if we assume the productivity stays flat, this problem all happen. But if I think the most promising thing is we see the technology acceleration as probably one of the most like comforting thing, right? It's like a deflationary power in the sense everything will become cheap and everyone will be able to enjoy very good life, like a base net with like not much effort, just like not many people in US or in Europe or even in China get hungry again, right? It's like somehow with productivity increase, the baseline just rises so fast. So I feel like that's probably the most promising thing. And I feel like blockchain can play a very big role in like reshape the division of labor and like make it's essentially like change the today how like people collaborate, right? Today people collaborate in two ways. One is the consumer big app where it's like there are central monopoly hyperscalers like Google, Facebook, and there are like the big enterprise you go to work for like I don't know, Salesforce, for GE, for like say Benz, and that's it, right? Like people just either go to work or just be a consumer. I feel like that will kind of change for society, and maybe a lot of the problem we face now will just slowly get like less severe as AI just becomes smarter than everyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the benefits are going to be incredible. The question is, what are everything always has trade-offs. And so if you look at the social media area and the advent of Web2 with cloud hosting and everyone being online all the time, I mean, the benefits are infinite. The benefits, we couldn't be doing this, right? You can't work remotely. You have to have, in-person everything. And you don't have the connectivity with people all around the world and the ability to build these human relationships, all these incredible benefits from Web2 and social media. But then the flip side is that you have there's like certain people, like teenagers, that it's just too much for them at that age, and they can't handle that, process that. So then that is a trade-off. And so similar with AI, I mean, I've constant benefits throughout the day just using AI in my everyday life. Sometimes you don't even have to go to the doctor. That's not medical advice, but it's everything is your fingertips. But then, I think we're still in such a rosy period with AI that a number of people have written sci-fi and various things about what the trade-offs are going to be. But then I wonder, when we're going to start to see some of those trade-offs and how we're going to deal with that.
Yeah, I think talking about the teenagers, right? Like, I think we are the early generation. Always find that teenagers have new challenges, but they always create new industries. Like this meme run, right? Like the Zoomer generation, like they enjoy it so much.
Yes, I'm still holding on to my skinny jeans.
Yeah. Okay, Lily. So last question is gonna be prediction about the future. What's gonna be your like two most like anti-consensus prediction about AI and about the blockchain world for the next week?
I think that AI meets blockchain is probably overhyped and overvalued at this point in time, because this is the way things always go. It goes like here, and everyone's like fever pitch about this thing. This is what's NFTs and gaming and ICOs. We've all seen the various things. And then it'll go down by about 80%. And then there will be a big washout, and there's going to be like 5 apps, right? Or 5 protocols / apps that are really going to be transformative. So I think that we're still on the ascent in the hype cycle right now. And to an extent, this is not a bad thing. Of course, when everything goes down by 90%, people get a little bit grumpy about that. I get that. But then what happens in that sort of up period is that people rush to build something, and that sort of like hive mind does even after filtering out produce some good stuff. So, but maybe that's the contrarian thing. I don't even know if that's contrarian. I feel like a lot of people must agree with that. That there's going to be, it's going to be a hype cycle. We're still on the upswing of that, and then it's overhyped definitionally right now. That's one. And then the other one, which I used to think was non-consensus, but unfortunately increasingly has become consensus, is that Solana is going to be the biggest layer 1 blockchain and the very dominant layer 1 blockchain. And that just is, I know that's like, oh, well, Lily, of course you're going to say that type of thing. But I thought that was possible, but likelihood we'll figure it out type of thing for a while. And now it seems increasingly likely. So you can discount that comment in all of the ways if you would like, which many people will, but that's cool. At least it's been recorded and time-stamped.
Yeah. I actually feel that I come from also a trader background, and I trade pretty heavily. And in previous round, I believe Bitcoin and Ether are hard money, and I park money in USDT, USDC as a safe harbor when I don't know what to do within my crypto balance. And yeah, like in this cycle, I got into like severely using Solana as basically my chips, right? Like I want to like play with some like memes, and I want to play with some like agent memes just to study the market and understand how our young people in their 50 are thinking. And through that, I was like, oh, it actually is like so convenient that I just put a lot of this in my like Fountain wallet and just let it park there. And when I look back, oh, a lot of my kind of hot wallet stuff, like half of it is in Solana. So I was like, oh, actually, this is my realization of what you were saying.
I apologize, Davide. Please don't take that personally.
Yeah. I mean, like, when Bill talks about these things, I turn my head around. I decide to look otherwise. Yeah.
Oh man. So the next time I want to know, Bill, what did you learn in the trenches?
Yeah, I fundamentally like trade pretty intensely stocks like say Tesla, Nvidia, and also like on the supply chain, and bet on is like Nvidia is gonna like increase the like CoWoS or decrease the CoWoS in TSMC. Those games, right? That's what I used to play. And when I play the like trenches game, I feel like there is a similar like social spreading of like, okay, some friend like ping me and tell me alpha, except in the equity world, this alpha like actually will play out like a prediction market, like in 3 months, in when like Jason go to earning call, actually you will know the outcome, so that you people are betting on some external oracle that have like real outcome. In like the whole like meme coin game, I think the missing piece is like people are not betting on some future fundamentals that are like hard to manipulate outcome. So that people have to bet on each other's behavior on liquidity. And there is basically a convergence process that everyone anticipated when everyone else exit. And the exit time just get shorter and shorter, from like, let's play the game for a month to let's play the coin for a day to let's play the coin for the next hour. And then everyone just compete on who runs faster when there is no fundamental anchor. That's kind of fundamentally how Bitcoin does not fall into that trap by like there is POW mining and there is the global network belief of Bitcoin is really valuable, right?
Yep. Well, I think that, I don't know if you saw the announcement today. We announced with Superstate that they're going to be bringing equities on chain on Solana. And that's going to be new primary interest, new issuances, and that's one of the first of I would say a number of announcements that we have planned on this asset class of equities. So Bill, maybe now you can do more of that also on chain.
Oh yeah, that'd be exciting. Yeah, like a 7-day, 24-hour betting on like the outcome of the Tesla.
So some of it will start off as being 24/5, and then eventually it'll move to 24/7. But Bill, we're here for you. Yeah, Bill is one of our muses. The Bill power user.
The power user.
Yeah. But I also love trading stock like on chain. Like I remember we can do that last cycle. And,
for a little while.
Ben, you're not being left out. Ben, we have you covered as well.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about whether those stocks can have futures as well. That would be even cooler.
Yes, I'm sure someone would build that overnight. Maybe an AI agent will build that. And Davide, if you start joining the trenches here, don't worry, we won't tell anyone.
Like be the other side and think more about the long term. Those like useful like use cases you were mentioning, and I think like the future is bright if we keep building, and if we are really able to do this match with AI. I really feel that it's kind of make or break, in the sense like crypto could be like a big industry, or it could be like huge and really like underpin everything that like the technological world like runs. That second aspect, I think it's what we're here for. So these games are fun, and these guys are having fun with it. So
fundamentals. I think good things start small, because there's like a liquidity experiment, right? But I believe this formats just are waiting for the real fundamental stuff that actually produce value, right? You need to couple these fun games with the things that produce real value to human society, and then it will just grow bigger and bigger and have the. I think that's the missing piece today.
Yeah, unclear.
Yeah, I'm making. That's
like the coupling, like it's unclear. Like
it's unclear
how that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one thing is clear is like when the AI, the intelligence is waking up, right? They wanted to settle with each other. They will surely trust the blockchain rather than the human financial system.
Yeah. That's very clear. Yeah, I think fundamentally blockchain is built for machine intelligence.
Yeah, actually, we talk a lot about decentralization, but like the permissionless aspect is what is really gonna change things here, and it's a bit scary as well because you can have like sovereign AIs and like basically unstoppable. So I mean, we need to use cryptography like in a clever way, but yeah, it's an exciting scenario if we get to that state.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks so much, Lily, for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
It was great.
A lot of fun. Thank you, Lily.
All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.